And joining us now is Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem, Fleur Hassan Nachoum. Fleur, let's start with, we're seeing an unprecedented warning by the National Security Council, warning Israelis from traveling abroad. Is it really just as a precaution or truly something different this time?
Well, I actually think it's a bit of both, because what we're seeing across the world, especially in Western countries, is an unprecedented amount of incidences of Jew hatred, not just with the marches, but vandalism and attacks. In America, the FBI actually warned that even though the American Jewish community is 2.4% of the entire country, 60% of all religiously motivated hate attacks are on Jews. So that just tells you the extent of where we are. We saw over the weekend that poor Jewish woman getting stabbed in her home in France with a swastika on the door. In London, we're seeing incidences of harassment, of bullying, of attacks, of vandalism everywhere. In Canada, there's a new phenomenon that people are using called mezuzah mapping, which means that people are going around to see which houses are Jewish houses. And the Jewish community is very, very concerned. And so there is a lot to be concerned about. And in fact, what's really poignant is that a lord in the UK, a Jewish lord in the House of Lords called Lord Wolfenson, made a very, very emotional speech last week saying he has two children. One is in an army uniform because he chose to make his life in Israel, and his daughter walks around London with a Magen David around her neck, and he's more concerned with his daughter in London with a Magen David than with his son in an Israeli uniform fighting a war. And I think that tells you everything you need to know.
Definitely, it's unimaginable. Fleur, you mentioned it in light of the recent attack on a Jewish woman in Lyon in France. Can you shed light on the measures being taken to address such incidents? Because, you know, to ensure the safety of Jewish communities, we're hearing voices of Jews scared to go out of their houses. Shouldn't tell you where that throws us to.
Well, absolutely. And I don't feel all the Jewish leaders that I've spoken to around the world, I don't think I've heard one of them say, we're fine. The police are protecting us. I'm not saying that the police are not protecting them, but I don't think Jews feel protected. Just as one example, in the UK, a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine from Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, Gideon Falter, was in a truck with pictures of the hostages on the side of this trucks, and he was asked by British police to turn off the light on the side of those trucks because it was offending the Free Palestine from the River to the Sea marches. And so a lot of people are feeling that the police are not protecting the Jewish community, or if they are, they're not doing it enough.
Yes, now, you know, some of the very large pro-Palestinian, or if I may, anti-Israel protests we're seeing are seen in countries, you know, whose leadership has expressed unwavering support for Israel, like the United States, like the UK, the French and the Germans. Its citizens, let's say, aren't so much. How do you explain the difference, you know, the big difference, the big gap over there?
Well, I think that all of the countries where you see these marches are countries with very large Muslim populations, which unfortunately have been radicalized. I mean, you know, I have tons of Muslim friends from around the world who are regular people, moderates, living regular lives. But we can't forget that there's a large amount of people that have been radicalized in all sorts of ways, social media amongst many, the rhetoric of certain radical imams. And so we shouldn't underestimate that a lot of these Muslim populations are really not populations who have integrated into Western value society. They very much keep the values of the mosques, of what they're preaching, and in a lot of the situations, it's hate speech, unfortunately. And I think that the world hasn't dealt with it. They've been kicking this can down the road. They've thought that this is a way to be diverse, politically correct, to let people, you know, express themselves. But ultimately, their expression is one of quietening, shutting us all down, because their values are very, very far from liberal Western values. And again, I don't want to generalize, because there's a lot of wonderful Muslim moderates who have shown support for Israel in these times. But what you're seeing on the street is a really lethal combination of the radical Islam and the radical left, who really haven't understood what it is that they're standing with.
Yes, and it's already spread all over. Fleur, lastly, how do you view the role of really social media in either fueling or countering anti-Semitism during times of conflict? What can they do? I mean, we're witnessing extreme amounts of incitement, of misinformation, of, posts in the name of free Palestine, in the name of free speech. Nobody's fact-checking, monitoring this. Everyone can pretty much write whatever they want. What can be done over here in this, in this arena?
I'm not sure that I'm very optimistic about social media. I'll tell you why. Most people on social media are living in an echo chamber. They're basically following voices that they believe in or they follow naturally. It's very, very hard to penetrate the voices who are anti. And I think that our battle is not there. 15% of the public really, really hate us, want us dead. And we should make no bones about it. These people are not talking about a two-state solution or peaceful resolution with the Palestinians. They believe in the river to the sea, meaning the eradication of the state of Israel. They don't want to see Jews here anywhere. And in fact, they want to kill us all. So that's the 15% haters. Then you've got the 15% lovers, who are our friends, who are Jews around the world, who are a big part of the evangelical Christian community, who are just moderate people who are sensible and are seeing that people who abduct babies are bad. It's as simple as that. People who want to rescue babies who have been abducted are good. So that those people who understand what evil looks like and what good looks like, those are moderate people. But then you have 70% of people in the middle who either don't care or they're undecided. And our social media efforts should really be targeting those people in the middle, not the haters. We're never going to win with them. The lovers already are on our side. It's the 70% of the people in the middle. And the best thing that we can do is to highlight the stories of the innocent civilians who've been taken by Hamas. That is what we should focus on. Put a face to this massacre and put a face to it with the hostages.
Definitely. We still have a very long way to go. Fleur, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.